you doing?
I am great, Mark. It's good to see you back. Well, it's actually good to see your face, so don't turn around, but it's good to see you back and that your surgery was a success.
I don't know if you guys know this, but we haven't been on because I had my left hip replaced. So I've been healing. It was 4 weeks. Been 4 weeks. Yesterday was 4 weeks. So I'm starting to recover. It's been quite a. They actually cut your leg off, really, and then put it back together. No, they don't cut they don't cut the muscles off. They do cut the bone and reconstruct your hip. So it's a pretty amazing thing. Now, what have you been up to, Kevin?
I just been up to doing my diet, my regiment, been increasing my cardio. Now in the month of April, we're up to 20 minutes of steady state cardio at the gym post workout to keep the gains going and getting that summer shred body working.
Well, hey, just to let you know, I've lost weight during. Usually, you don't do this, but I've lost weight during my surgery and recovery. So you can do it, and I've been using Fix, and I lost 38 pounds so far. I do have another 60 to 70 pounds I want to lose, which is a human being. I got to lose a small human being, but nonetheless, it's a good start. And when we've been laying down some rules of how to eat, and so we've been following some of the rules of eating. And with the Fix, obviously I can't work out like I want to. I do a small upper body workout with light weights, uh, sitting in a chair, and we do arms, back, shoulders, chest, bis, tris.
Good.
So I do that just about every day, at least every other day. But that's been helpful too. But when we put them all together, it's called weight loss. So, and it's not how much you eat. As obviously you can't eat 10,000 calories at a sitting, but it's not how much you eat. It's exactly what you're eating, and that's really the main thing. You can actually eat a lot of food and lose weight. And
Yep,
so,
eating
what
your
do you
way.
think about that, Kevin?
Huh?
What do you think about that?
Oh, I love it. That is the greatest thing that I ever learned. And I learned that from, training with Michael Hearn and doing that in 2018, 2019. 2019, I lost the most, 20 pounds, maybe close to 30. And I got super, thin, super flat. I didn't want to lose the muscle that I did, but I did. So now this time around, I'm doing something a little bit different, a little bit of a trick where I'm actually increasing my protein because the more cardio you do, the more protein you have to take because when you're either running or walking, your body's going to attack the muscle and store the fat. So the whole trick with all this, which we'll get into and we'll mention it here now too, but is that you have to eat before you're hungry and you have to eat the right calories at the right time to really make a difference in yourself. And that's only going to come with working with a coach or training with somebody elite because everybody just thinks, oh, if I stick to my macros, I'm good. But macros diets are something that I would say, and Mike will even confirm, is something that you do while you want to maintain. When you want to change, that's when you have to eat with purpose. Kind of like everything else we do in life, live with purpose, date with purpose, eat with purpose, that type of thing. So what I've been doing for my diet is I've cut out bread for the month of April. It sucks. Only on rare occasions where I'm in a pinch, travel, kids schedule, soccer, sports, I have to resort to eating something that I buy. It's healthy, but it's got bread, then I'm eating bread. Other than that, it's been rice cakes and wraps for me every day, all day. And people, that kind of discipline and consistency is what's going to create a better body, and your body's going to adjust to it, but it takes time. And like Mark says, eating to lose weight, because when you get those calories to come in, your body's just going to say, hey, it's that time. I don't have to worry. I don't have to go and store fat, whatever comes in it. Oh no, I got to store this because I don't know what I'm going to eat again. It knows it's coming, so it's not going to hang on to it. And that's when you can go to the gym and do that cardio after your workout and slice off just a little bit more. So really good point,
Good
Mark.
stuff. Good stuff. You said something about coaching, and I wanted to tell everybody that AVLP is having an interesting growth spurt in the sense that we are adding Kevin as a health coach. I am the life coach. Well, look at that, muscles and all kinds of stuff. I'm the life coach, and I'm the lifestyle coach, marriage, relationships, do all. And then we have one of the most known business coaches in the world, and you will be able to schedule with myself or with Kevin or with Russ Devan from Success by Design. And I think those two things are going to be happening. If you want to go check out the website right now, it's just me, but we're going to be adding your chance to get with Kevin and to also have Russ. And Russ, we're going to have some bundles that are really exciting that will include all of us. And I think you'll get a lot out of it. And also, we want to give value, so we don't want to rip anybody off. We want to make sure that it's affordable for everybody, so that we can help everybody and add value.
Getting experts in their field and getting them together. What's really neat out of all of this and all of us is that we have a common theme, and it's not what you think, but it's a common theme about everything that we do. It's really being able to help people with their goals, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's fitness, any of that stuff. We're here because we want to see you win, because we've been there. We've been in the trenches. We've been knocked down. And this is our comeback song. This is our fight song. And that's what we're doing now. We're trying to pass everything that we've learned on to you. And it's taken years for some of us, and others have had even more experience with this. So this is going to be a win-win for everyone across the board.
All right, man. Well, hey, let's just jump in. If you go to the book of Genesis and you look at anything that God does in that early time of man, you see that God made everything perfect. And he made a perfect garden, and he made perfect human beings, and then he gave them responsibility. In other words, Adam wasn't just sitting in the garden watching the clouds go by. He had work. The Bible says he had dominion over the earth. And we've kind of lost that idea of dominion. And one of the biggest things that we've lost is the idea of dominion over ourselves. We no longer can lead ourselves, and people can't lead themselves. And that's why they fall into these relationship issues. Or even myself, with over the years, as I played sports in college, and I didn't lead myself properly, and then I gained a bunch of weight. And so we have to learn, about this responsibility that's been given to us. And and I know that people get nervous when they start talking about me. Oh, me. And for some reason, people have branded me as something that's not good, not healthy, cruel, and that's just not the case. Meat played a very important part with man from the beginning. After man fell, and whether you believe that story or not, God then sacrifices a lamb, and then he says anything that's on the earth you can eat. And then later on in the New Testament, God will talk to Peter, and he'll say, hey, anything that I've blessed is good for you. And so obviously, it done right, meat is an incredible tool that we use in learning to lead ourselves in that responsibility. And I am not saying that the Bible endorses the carnivore diet, but I am saying it doesn't say it's bad. And I think we have to be careful that, well, I'm a vegan, or I'm this, or I'm that. Well, all I can say is do what works for you, okay? But we know that the carnivore diet works for people, and it's powerful. And God gave us meat and vegetables and salt and simple things to be powerful tools in our wheelhouse. That being said, I'm not saying that you can go out and eat bacon every day, 7 days a week, a pound at a time. You got to use some discernment, some thought, some understanding. Processed foods are not good for you. They have all kinds of stuff in them that's not good, especially high levels of salt. There's high levels of dyes. You just really can't do that. So Kevin today is going to start to dig into the carnivore approach to our health,
Yep.
and we'll be talking about later on in some of the other things. I'll be digging in on maybe some spiritual things and some biblical principles for us. But right now, we want to really key in on the carnivore approach and the right tools that it gives us, and uh, pushing hard at the gym and building lives that are full of strength. And you want spiritual strength and you want physical strength. And frankly, when you're down, and when I got out of surgery, I wasn't feeling particularly spiritually strong at that moment, because I wasn't feeling good. We're holistic people, and when we don't feel good physically, we don't feel good spiritually, and we have issues. So we have to keep that in mind. So this conversation, I believe, is an important one today, and everyone has to start someplace. And eating the carnivore diet is not dishonoring your body as the temple of God. And you can't be spiritually on fire and physically falling apart, like I said before. So, anyway, I'm going to kind of turn this over to Kevin. I might ask him a few questions, but Kevin, take it from here, because this is going to be a real interesting
It is.
time for us.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. So, hey, everyone. Right. You couldn't have said it better. I mean, this is happening right now. We're seeing everything about the fad diets, and I know carnivore diet is kind of one of those, but it's not a fad diet. That's a bad diet. It can be done, but I don't think it's going to be 100% carnivore. I think there's going to be some parts of it that, one, via cost alone, but also your body does need to have other certain nutrients and fiber and things like that to help push things through. And literally, in that sense, when we're going to talk about it, we're actually going to talk about something that happened to my father at a young age, that I have been eating like a 55 or 60-year-old since I've been 20. But here, this is what happened. He had a five-way bypass, and five-way because he had like more arteries than people normally do or something. That's the only reason why. Otherwise, I think it's a four-way. But so he had that done because not so much what his diet was, because we were raising cows on the farm, but because of the stress that was in his life. And I just want to make this, because it's kind of, close to home. You can't go through life stressing and freaking out and living in fear, because it just does so much to your body. I've got a couple of stories from some people, some just by example that I've seen and watched, and then one recently someone mentioned to me a similar, failure happened to their body and something was removed. That happened to a family member of mine, and I'm just curious as to why that is. If that person was going through a very fearful time and troublesome time, and this organ failed on them. So it does happen, folks. Your body is not made to live under that high volume of stress, constant bad information and news. Everything that happened with COVID, the shutdown, the lockdown, was pretty much, and no pun intended, a death sentence for anything that had to do with faith, uh, anything to do with mental and physical wellness, anything to do for small businesses and having that patriotic and entrepreneurial type mindset to go and build something. So food, mental aspects, physical aspects, everything ties in here. So with the carnivore diet, people, either love it, swear by it. Some people think there's going to be a heart attack. Some people think it's going to create, cancer in your body. You're going to have like 25 pounds of undigested red meat by the time you're 65 or so, something like that, in your bowels. Not necessarily true. And the reason for all of that, and I'm going to give you some stuff that's just coming to my mind right now that's not in the script here, because of the things that I research online. Dr. Barry I think it's, yeah, Dr. Barry. He's on Instagram. He talks about the carnivore diet, and that there are some good parts of it, and it's a plus, because it does promote and helps out people with healing. It helps out with cell health. There's another lady who's a doctor out there. I forgot her name, Gabrielle something. She's a small powerhouse of a person, but she's in the gym, and she's talking about how protein helps with cell health. So you guys cannot cut out eating good sources of protein or meat, or if you're vegetarian, you're getting them from beans or vegetables. The only thing that I think that helps out with the carnivore diet and everything else is having that balance. Right. So for me, I do somewhat of a carnivore diet, but I don't completely forget the vegetables. I don't completely forget about the food. And I've worked with athletes, bodybuilders, and people healing from autoimmune issues and things like that in the past. And cutting out all the noise and just focusing on a nutrient-dense animal foods brings incredible short-term relief, less bloating, clearer thinking, less inflammation, and people are dropping weight fast. Because whenever you take in things that have pesticides on them, right? We eat something and we wonder why we feel bloated, or we, get an apple or fruit, we don't really wash them off, properly, or we can't because of the way it was sprayed or the way it was made. All right, because now they're engineering foods to withstand, just about, a war. Uh, that you're getting some of these chemicals in your system and your body just doesn't know what to do with it. So we're seeing some bad reactions. And like one of them being inflammation, it's one of your body's way of saying, hey, this doesn't work with me. So if you do a carnivore diet, you most likely could be missing things like vitamin C, um, magnesium, and potassium, and your electrolytes will tank without intentional support. And your gut might slow down and your energy might dip once the glycogen gets depleted, right? Glycogen is a one-for-one conversion, as we saw with Dr. James DiNicolantonio on the last podcast we had, from carbohydrates. So you need to make sure you get that. So what are we going to do to break down this into something real, something usable that you can have in your life? And by the way, today's segment, we're going to create a link later that we're going to be able to make this available to you so you can look at the script, you can look at the write-up, not so much of the conversation, but so much of what the diet can do for you. We'll put this on the Facebook page. We can put it on several pages, but the Ascendant Mind and Body will have it posted. What happens when you go carnivore? What are the risks, and what supplements can you take to make it actually work for you? So we're going to go into that, and beyond that, right? We're going to go to stuff that's been proven and demonstrated, me being your guinea pig. And with that list of our go-to supplements for gains, whether you are a carnivore, keto, paleo, or just trying to live strong, we're going to go and tackle that here. Now, there's no mystery pills or gimmicks in any of this. This is just smart health and fitness and faith-based, performance coaching. And with that, we're going to talk about when you switch to a carnivore diet, it's not only that you're eating animal products and eliminating all plant foods, but your body enters a different metabolic state. In the absence of carbs, your body starts burning fat for fuel, shifting that thing towards ketosis, which we talked about the keto diet, right? But not exactly straight on carnivore ketosis 24/7, because even Mike's mentioned, O'Hearn, that that long term is just not sustainable. And of course, Dr. James DiNicolantonio talks about all that protein and energy that's wasted converting all that stuff to energy for you. So you'll get rapid weight loss, especially in the first few weeks, largely due to water loss and glycogen depletion. You're going to have reduced inflammation for some individuals, right? Particularly those with autoimmune conditions or gut sensitivity to plants, grains, or processed foods, and improved mental clarity for some people. It's likely because of the stable blood sugar and ketone production, right? Better satiety, where you are not going to have all these cravings for other things after you eat it, especially sweet, and those types. Now, I notice myself when I eat at night yogurt, Greek yogurt with blueberries in it, which I do. I'll alternate between that at night and then like a salad the next night. And what that does for me, especially if I'm going to lift heavy the next day, I might add on some extra, fruit that day or that evening, is that it's going to be like more filling. I'm no longer as hungry as I was before. That yogurt just really kind of like turns off the craving, and I'm good for the rest of the night. All I need to do is just drink some water, and I'm good for the evening. So there's going to be an adaptation period, right, known as the carnivore flu, where you may feel sluggish, tired, irritable. And if you're doing a show or you're getting ready for pictures and you're doing a dry out, some of these dry outs that we do eliminate carbohydrates altogether. You will go, I think, 2 days straight, I think, maybe 3 without carbs at all, at all. And I had remembered when I did this in 2019 that I felt very low energy. I would almost pass out under the Smith machine squatting. I couldn't do any of those heavy compound movements. and very cranky and irritable that I had to see myself out of a room because I was going to snap. So, what are these risks, right? What the carnivore diet can offer in short-term benefits for some people, but there are real concerns when it comes to long-term health and balance. That's why we always try to balance things out. So some of these risks include micronutrient deficiencies, especially in vitamin C, magnesium, potassium, folate, and fiber, most of which are found in fruits and vegetables. Electrolyte imbalance, especially during the early stages, can lead to fatigue, cramping, heart palpitations, and mental fog. You will have digestive issues, including constipation or irregularity due to the absence of dietary fiber, which my pun intended when I said it in the beginning is you need fiber to push things through, and that's what I'm talking about. You need to get stuff out of the system. And there's a trick to that I learned from my father's diet when I was 20, which is like 30 years ago. Cholesterol and health concerns, right? While some people see improvements, others may see spikes in LDL cholesterol, and it's very different for every individual. Notably, myself, as I've been going for blood tests regularly every 6 months or more often to see where my HDL, LDL levels are, and I've noticed a small uptick in the wrong direction, but it's borderline against what the standards are today as being bad, but I am obviously, as you can tell, as you can see, perfectly healthy. So cholesterol is good. Let me tell you about that more later for mental health. Alzheimer's and dementia prevention. So for hormonal imbalance, especially in women, due to extremely low carbs, this can happen too as well if you focus too much on a carnivore diet. Social and lifestyle changes like dining out, meal prep, and food monotony, right? Which can lead to a lot of people giving up. And trust me, I am the author of monotony. I can eat the same thing every day, day in and day out, and not really care. Yeah, I can wear on you, but guess what you're making? Guess what you were building in the kitchen? So what can you take for supplements to make this work? How can this carnivore lifestyle, or I would say in my world, 90% carnivore, 10% everything else, work safe and effectively, especially if you're training hard, trying to build muscle, and you're trying to recover from your workouts? So smart supplementation, electrolytes. There's a company out there called Relight. I like to use them. You can also grab a pinch of pink salt and throw it in your drink. Watch your coffee intake again. When you take 2 cups of coffee, you pretty much depleted your day's worth of salt. Replenish what you're losing. Exactly like what I just said. Make sure you've got those electrolytes going. Salt. I eat salted buttered popcorn. Especially if you're going to go do heavy lifts. It's great for joints, knees, and everything when you go deep. Vitamin C, even small amounts can help protect your immune system, right? And connective tissue, right? That is so huge for longevity. And we talk about that, and Mike talks about that. When you do a carb depleted diet, you're really starting to age and wear thin your connective tissue strength. So consider liposomal or buffered C for gut tolerance. Digestive enzymes, right, or ox bile is something that you can take that helps the body break down the high fat intake, especially early on when your gallbladder might be playing catch up. And for some of you, as I mentioned before, who have had high stress lifestyle or life events and have lost your gallbladder because of stress, this is something that you may want to take note of. Collagen, bone broth, protein, these are all really good. They're great for joint support, skin, gut health, and balancing out muscle meats with more connective tissue nutrients. I do collagen every day, and I recently just switched to one because I had a long-term, air quotes, injury racing my daughter to the truck. I know, simple racing without warming up messed up the inside of my right knee. Now, theoretically, it should have gone away in a couple of days, but that thing lasted for weeks. I had no idea what it was. I finally went online and looked at the back of my bottles, and the collagen 12510, which I'm going to show you here in a moment, was what I needed. And within like 3 days, 4 days of taking that, the pain was gone. Creatine monohydrate. It's one of the most studied, sought after supplements in the industry. It's safe to take, even if you don't go to the gym, folks. It is great for energy. It is great for mental clarity. This is also good for training for strength or performance. It supports ATP production and muscle recovery. And omega-3s, right? Fish oil or cod liver oil. I now have changed mine to a 369. There are some caveats with people saying about the 6 and the 9, depending on how used and absorbed. But I think as a supplement, it's probably pretty safe to take, as well as, of course, eating fish, cod, catfish, haddock, vitamins that you should be taking in combination and not separate, right? We all went through the COVID years and we said, okay, make sure we take our vitamin D, our D3, and make sure we're building up our immune system and our cell resiliency so that this COVID thing doesn't take hold or that it's really harder for our cells to be under attack. So that's what's going to happen when you take zinc, D3, and K2 together and magnesium. That's going to help with your immune system. So D3 and K2 should be taken together and never apart because D3 will go right to the heart instead of your bones if you don't take the K2 with it. It helps make that attachment. Zinc and magnesium, right? You can do them separate or together. They're great for recovery, sleep, testosterone support. Guys, bananas and zinc, do that once a day. That's going to help. Now, I'm here at the portion and I know I'm going fast, but I want to make sure that I covered a lot. And I know, Mark, before I get into my list of supplements, you mentioned that you might have some questions for me. So I'm going to take a minute to take on those questions before giving out the goodie list of supplements that I've seen that are healthy to take and use.
Well, the biggest question, and one of the things you said about the carnivore diet was that it it creates a slowing down actually of your digestive system because the meat will and the proteins go through your system much slower.
Exactly.
But having said that, how good is when you add psyllium to your diet, or there is which is water soluble, and you can get it with absolutely no sugar, or there are other supplements that you can take that are fiber, and you can put them in your food. You can put them on your vegetables. You can put those. Have you seen anything about that? Would that affect the carnivore diet in any way?
Well, yeah, it can help out with processing, right? So here's the one thing, right? You were talking about psyllium husk or a prebiotic fiber that can help restore regularity, or reintroducing, full plant foods. So one of the things that people can do and take, which I don't have with me, but we're going to scroll through it here when I share my screen for the supplements, is if you can take some type of a prebiotic into your system while you're eating, you're going to be creating that gut flora to help you process the nutrition that you're putting in. Now, by default, protein takes a lot longer to digest than and energy to digest than carbohydrates. That's why when you eat calorie dense foods such as meat, such as peanut butter, right? It takes more energy to digest and break down than it does just to take and pass over some bread, some greens or some other types of carbs, potatoes, sweet potato, into your system. So doing a non-fermentable fiber like psyllium husk or a prebiotic fiber can help restore that. It helps bulk stool and promotes smoother digestion, especially if your gut struggles with heavy fat and protein loads. I use the Happy Juice, and that's been working for me. Some people use partially hydrolyzed guar gum, PHGG, or acacia fiber because it's more gentle and it doesn't trigger the bloating like other fibers might do. I think maybe even back in the day, metal mucil used to be the thing I used to take when things weren't going like they should as a child. But that does it break the carnivore diet? Carnivore means no plant foods or plant-based products, but from a health optimization standpoint, adding fiber really doesn't break anything if you are consistent. So those are the things that I would say people should try. Find out what works for you. I've heard nothing but good news from people with the Happy Juice. Like I said, it's got prebiotics, probiotics, it's got phytobiotics, things that help out with neural processing, and it puts serotonin back in your stomach. So when your circadian rhythm, the clock comes and shows nighttime, it turns and converts that over to a naturally good dose of melatonin produced naturally by yourself to go to bed. So I've I've had nothing but really good news. It creates what I call a great engine to process the nutrition. Because every time we take the protein shakes and the powders and all these other supplements, that gut flora tends to get off balanced. And people are looking at why is, his stomach so bloated? Why is that? I mean, the guy's a bodybuilder. What's going on? It could be some of the supplements that they're taking. And notably, and you can put me on the record for this, and here's other people that will cite it. GNC has not really been a good vendor for finding, their protein powders to be working. I used to have lots of bloating. I even tried Optimum Nutrition's casein protein, which I mentioned in my commercial the other day. I could only take it for about 30 days, and then my kidneys started to hurt. So I had to stop taking that. Now I finally went and switched over to Levels protein, and both their whey protein has no sucralose, and the casein has not been giving me any issues whatsoever. And the chocolate flavor, it's like a treat. So that's one way of enjoying your trip to a better body with what we have here. So with that, I'm going to show and tell and share my screen so that we can show the people what's going to be a good list of things to take. So here we go. So here we have in number one order, not that it means it's the number one, it's just the first one that came up here, is Levels Whey Protein. You can find this online on Amazon or Levels website. I use this. Like I said, I switched from GNC. I switched from Optimum Nutrition. I switched from Pure Isolate. Many of the vendors out there, some of them are super nice and super sweet because they got the sucralose in it. And let me tell you, when you mix it with French roast coffee, it is the best. However, noting that my belt size went down an inch by switching over to this, I'm much better for it. Going down here for Levels casein, this is what I'm taking at night, which is going to happen here in just a moment, is my casein protein. I'm going to get another 24 grams. I'm going to get 5.25 BCAAs for recovery. So I don't buy those supplements anymore for BCAAs because they're mostly in a lot of the protein powders that are out there. Also, on the back of this lists glycine, which is great for helping you sleep. And that is why when you take this stuff, you sleep like a log. So that's something I want to interest people in. Here we've got the Zamex collagen, right? This one is the one that I was taking for quite some time, right? 10 grams per serving. This is good. It helps out with skin, hair, nails, some of the joints it helped out with. But then I went and I switched over to the Wholesome Wellness multi-collagen protein powder, which is a type 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10. And this one took away the pain almost instantly in my knee. So I would say if you're recovering from connective tissue issues and injuries, that this be one of them that you take to help aid in your recovery. For working on the gut and the brain, we have Amari's Happy Juice. I've been using this. I get Amari Edge. It's got 100 grams of naturally occurring green tea caffeine, if you will. So I get my caffeine that way. I don't really need to do a cup of coffee. Sometimes I do if I'm tired and I really want to roar for that day. But it also has, speaking of which, it has lion's mane in it, which helps reduce inflammation in the body. And that's inflammation everywhere. We've heard Dr. Mark Hyman talk about it. We talked about autism, ADHD. We talked about some of the mental processing in people where there's a reaction that the brain is made up of fatty tissue, is made up of cholesterol called myelin. And that can get inflamed. And that's why people on the spectrum or have ADD, ADHD have a hard time focusing because there's what they call sugar in the brain, and it's not supposed to be there, folks. That's why eating a diet that's kind of quote unquote bland is probably the best thing for you for your longevity. And doing these changes now at 30 or 40 or 50 affects what you're going to look like when you're 60 and 70. So you think you're partying and living your life, and you've got time to change. Like, no, what you're doing now is setting yourself up for down the road. So that's why health is really important. We have the Amari GBX Fit, which is part of the hormone pack, which I'm going to buy here after this call, again, because I'm going to get back on that. I've been off it for a couple weeks. This helps by introducing a couple more strains to reduce bloating, really help you lose weight, to burn calories. This has been great. My last picture in June of 2024, I was doing all of it. I was doing my enclomiphene with, regimen with Titan Medical. I did my Amari hormone pack, including the GBX Fit here, and I got so sliced. 4 out of 6 abs were showing. We're going to go for 6 this time. And then here, in the Amari Hormone Pack, we see all of it. We have the Ignite, which is for, sexual wellness, and we have Mood, Mood Plus, right? And we have the GBX Fit. The Ignite, I actually just heard this in the last call that we had for our group. This is pretty much gender neutral. Even though this is for the men, it's only because it's got higher potency and ratings. Women, I heard recently on that last call were actually taking the women that pack and didn't have the effect that they were looking for, switched over to this and noticed considerable differences and benefits. So even though there's a his and a her, I did notice that some of the women on the call the other night said that they did try the his and it was phenomenal. Again, going into weight loss, you yourself, Mark, have used the Fix and lost 38 pounds. So
The
this is
fix,
again,
the fix, it gives you, it does a number of things. It balances out your body's pH, which is very, very important. So you're not an acid. It gives you 9 hours. Every time you use Fix, you get 9 hours of fat burning. Now, look, you're not going to burn 10 pounds of fat at a time, but it will increase your body's natural fat burning. It also will regulate your sugar. And so it helps like a GLP, almost like a GLP. It's not a GLP, but it helps regulate your sugar. So it's pretty amazing stuff. It's not new science. It's all natural. It comes from plants, no GMOs.
great.
It's pretty incredible stuff. Yeah.
That is awesome. So there you have it, folks. That is the list that I swear by, that I use, that Mark uses. Most of it, I use most of all those supplements that are on there. You can take a look at my cabinet and it's all there. But that has helped me out tremendously, of course, as well as going and getting my blood work done and having Titan Medical set up a regimen for me to help boost my testosterone with a compound called enclomiphene. I've been able to double my numbers. I am going to have to go through another research queue again because of the timing of the testing that I just did while I was in Tampa was later in the day, and my reading was 572 even at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for my testosterone versus getting that number at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to have to go through and do some weighted analysis, but I think I would be closer up to 7 or maybe even 800. I have to go look. I don't know. But between the hormone pack and the enclomiphene, it's phenomenal. Again, processing and metabolizing food, tons of energy, which I've always had, which was remarkable. I'm 1 in a million according to Mike. But again, these are the things that when you get off of this regimen, I actually today was my last day, then I'm going to start to feel the dive now of not having the enclomiphene. So I'm going to have to rely on the Amari. I'm going to have to rely on good sleep patterns. Resting maybe even during the day, take a nap or something after a workout in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. Those types of tips and tricks to get that number and maintain it at a high level. So all good stuff, all cutting edge, folks, right here, episode 4. This is going to be really good information for you. We're going to make this available. We're going to make this available both on Spotify for you to watch and on the rewind, but we're also going to put this on several sites so that you can look at and click and get access to that list of supplements. And of course, if you'd like, you can get a free consult session with us for 30 minutes to find out where and where you want to go. So we're going to try and make that available to you guys.
Right. You can go to www.avlp.org, and there is a log on where you can schedule a 15-minute session And that 15 when we will also have 30-minute sessions, especially when it's for health. When it's just life coaching or some of those other things, usually it's a 15-minute session, but those are free. And then we will have some packages, and they will be available and they're coming. So, Kevin, this was pretty fascinating today. Your gut is really important. People don't realize that. And it's never, look, I'm 68, and it's never too late to start. It's never too late to get back on track.
That's right.
You really shouldn't, I'm 45, I'm 50, it's too late. And it's never too late. I actually, my doctor and I were talking, I've talked with Kevin. I can actually get back into the best shape of my life. I used to ski. My doctor said, hey, you get down to a certain amount of weight and you can ski again. I can do jujitsu again, which obviously not, getting in the ring and doing the jujitsu in the ring, but just exercising. And there are a lot of things. It's not too late. So don't give up. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. It's gonna be great, but have realistic goals.
Yeah.
You need to bring some clarity into your life, and if you need clarity, that's what I'm the clarity guy. So we can really help you with clarity on your health, clarity on your relationships, and clarity in your business if you're trying to do well in business. Because I will tell you that Russ Devan has made millions of dollars in business. He is not one of these guys that go, oh, do X, Y, and Z. He has done it. It ain't bragging when you can do it. So he's one of the kindest, most upright gentlemen that I've ever met, and he's going to be on here with us pretty soon. So we're looking forward to that.
Segment. Yeah, no, it's definitely, you got to have clarity, you got to have focus. And what happens with life is that things get too busy. And what we all do as people is we end up responding and reacting to life versus trying to figure out what life is trying to do for us, right? Life happens for you, not to you. And you have to find out the way to respond. And I know it's hard. Sometimes it's easy to say than spoken than living. But when you go through some of that, and I actually been there and going through like the darkest time now, but when you find out what that that voice has been trying to tell you, it just opens up the door for clarity, having focus, having a good identity of who you are. So once you get that identity and you know your why, that strategy is going to come so much more easier, and you won't have to stress about the how. You can try things.
That identity stuff is something that's really important.
It is.
You can't identify with your work or with money or with you got to identify with something else, and that's again something that we can help guide people through. Kevin, thank you. It's been a great time today. It's very eye-opening. So appreciate your knowledge, and we're going to get everybody caught up. Right?
All right. That's it. Everybody get shredded for the summer. You can take your shirt off and stop some traffic.
All right. See you later.
Guys. Bye.
This episode is sponsored by Russ Devan in the Untraining Method. Tired of hype, pressure, and outdated sales tactics? Success by design. Untraining isn't motivation, psychology, or another way to get better at selling. It's a breakthrough approach built on what's missing, rooted in ontological principles that shift how you think, listen, and connect. Created by Russ Devan, with over 45 years of experience, it's about creating results through authentic productivity. Visit successbydesignglobal.com to learn more. And stay tuned, Russ is coming soon to the podcast.